Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you guys are having a great Sunday morning. I've had a great weekend so far. Sorry, I went AWOL on y'all yesterday. Was outside, did a 100K relay, and I ran about 9.5 miles, but broken up between two different sections, and it was really fun just hanging out with some dudes and just having a really good time, feeling alive, being outside. My legs are killing me this morning. Worst leg pain I've ever felt in my life, but it feels good. It feels good to be alive. And it's always great to do activities like that to challenge yourself physically. So back with y'all this morning. We're going to try to start doubling up the videos again. If it gets to the point where there is absolutely nothing to talk about, then we'll probably just do one video a day. But I want to give y'all kind of a weekly forecast of what to expect this week. I do expect some activity, especially in the Pacific Northwest, where y'all guys can get hammered with a lot of moisture, a lot of rain, a lot of snow for the higher elevation. We're going to talk about what's going on right now, what's just going to happen this week. And then in this evening's video, we'll break down what we're seeing pattern-wise going forward, because I do see some disruptions in the pattern and maybe a potential pattern change in the middle of the country that could set up maybe some severe weather and maybe just some overall activity in the Midwest that could eventually come closer to the eastern U.S. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything I can pray about, please put it in the comments below so we all can pray for one another here. So let's get going here. So right now, let's switch to the radar. We have some rain moving through portions of eastern Tennessee into the mountains of North Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee, even upstate South Carolina. There is reports of snow and sleet. We've been talking about this for what seems like several days on and off, and it is just cold enough for some sleet and snow up here in these areas of far southwest Virginia, the far northeast Tennessee area, and then even some sleet into North Carolina. Nothing unheard of, nothing crazy at all, but just something pretty to see something fall from the sky. It's not even really going to be a nuisance or anything like that. Switch it over down here to my area here in Columbia. Some much needed rain moving through the Carolinas, and it's just starting to rain at my house currently. And I'm very happy because we do need a rainy day around here. Not everybody likes a rainy day, but we definitely need the rain in portions of the Carolinas and Georgia. But here you go, what it looks like today from the system. Moving forward, we're getting into later in the morning, and it's just an area of rain moves through the Carolinas, portions of Georgia. It's not going to be one of those 1 to 2 inch rainfall events or anything like that, but just a steady light to moderate rain throughout the day, and then we get into the evening hours, and then it begins to taper off, and what sets up to be a pretty nice week. So let's take a look at the Pacific Northwest. You guys are going to get hammered, especially over today, throughout the week, this coming week. Here we go. This is getting all the way through this evening. Around a really heavy rain moves through Seattle. And then northern sections of Oregon. Continues to rain rounds and rounds after rounds. We're getting into tomorrow morning. It continues to rain. Now, y'all aren't super unused to this or anything like that, but this is going to be several days of rain. It's really going to pad the snowfall stats for the higher elevations up here, but a lot of rain. A lot of rain falling for the Washington State especially. And it continues when we get all the way out into the wee hours of the morning, March 1st. And for your Tuesday morning, and it's still rounds and rounds of rain just keep moving through this area. So just expect a lot of rain up here. And y'all are used to a lot of rain, so it's nothing y'all aren't used to, but this is a lot of rain. So going through Wednesday morning, really, this is just only to Wednesday morning from the National Weather Service. Anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 inches of rain in Seattle. This just accounts for all precipitation, so some of this is falling for snow. But I will mention that the snow levels are pretty high, above average temperatures for the most part expected for just about all the western U.S. So the snowfall levels are pretty significantly high. So even in the valleys, this is definitely going to be all rain. But them higher elevations, several thousand feet up in the air, this could be in the form of snow. But overall, you see the picture, a lot of rain falling for these areas. So keep that in mind and drive safe up here. But for the week in general, if you keep your eyes up here in the Pacific Northwest, you'll see the pattern where you get rounds and rounds of rain. It seems like I've said rounds and rounds of rain about 10 times now in this video. But moving forward, we get rid of this system. Expect snow squalls throughout the day today for the Northeast. So it's going to be kind of snow squall weather up there where you just get rounds of snow that can quickly accumulate, and then the sun might break out, heck, and then another round of snow comes through. But this is kind of the pattern what sets up here, an Arctic boundary, or just a boundary in general, where it's troughing over the northeast, and it's kind of not necessarily a zonal flow, but it's a pretty relaxed, standard, just kind of same flow setting up here, where the northern jet is basically shooting through here, and then you have clippers that kind of come through the Great Lakes. Maybe enough energies around as we get to the middle part of the week to where maybe a round of snow might make it all far south of Chicago. But these will continue to pivot through the far northern Midwest areas, the north central U.S., and then we'll bring some snow showers for areas of the interior northeast throughout the week. They'll just be round after round. Nothing substantial with each pieces of this energy at all whatsoever. But just expect just areas of snow to move throughout the week as we're getting into our Thursday evening now. That boundary's still there, but it begins to ridge up as a ridge begins to build in the middle of the country. And then it begins to just basically above average temperatures. A big time ridge of high pressure starts to build all the way up into the Midwest. Therefore, the colder air gets knocked a little further north. And eventually, as we get into this weekend, the pattern begins to buckle a little bit, meaning basically a cold front starts moving through the central U.S., and that is when the pattern could potentially change, and that's when we start watching out here as Arctic air begins to release from Canada. Therefore, an Arctic boundary will continue to sag southeast, and we might get a lot more activity as we're getting into the latter part of this coming weekend when we get some kind of storm system. Have to watch out for severe weather in this area, and then maybe some kind of snowstorm in the Midwest. But that's getting pretty far out, and we're starting to get into next week with that. But you can see the pattern setting up here, continuous troughing, kind of going into Canada, into the northeast throughout the week, getting into Wednesday, Thursday. But look how this ridge builds right into here, and that means above average temperature for basically everybody you see in the red here as this is ridging occurring. You still got troughing in the extreme northeast area, but eventually you get what you call a negative PNA, which means troughing in the west, ridging in the east, which means you still have a warmer than average period in the eastern U.S. But eventually what happens here is that troughing sets up, then you have storm systems that can eject itself across the middle of the country, and then that's when you have to watch out for severe weather and then an active storm track across this portion of the country. So we'll talk about that a little bit more tonight in this evening's video. But as far as temperatures, you can see it well. This is just the operational GFS model, and you can see all the cold air bottled up here this week. We're getting into Wednesday morning, cold air still up here, but this is, for example, this is low temperatures. Relatively low temperatures here Wednesday morning. Lows in the 50s and 40s all the way up into South Dakota. So you can tell all the Arctic air gets bottled up in Canada and the far northern states of the U.S. and the interior northeast. I mean, look at the low temperatures down in Florida, only into the 50s and 60s. And then you see high temperatures Wednesday erupting all the way up into the 70s. Almost all the way up into South Dakota. So a nice week expected for everybody, especially if you're in the southern U.S. The temperatures really get going here. It's going to be a totally different week weather-wise than last week, where a lot of people very far south were experiencing some winter weather. But you can obviously see as plain as day as we're getting into Thursday afternoon where the Arctic boundary is setting up here, where it's cold, where it's not. So for example, if you're like in Kentucky, West Virginia, the southern Ohio Valley, you guys could be jammed up in the 40s, maybe even the 30s. But if you just go maybe another state further south, you're well into the 60s and 70s and enjoying a spring-like week. The cold air tries to ooze south, but, it's pretty much a failed cause here. What really causes, as we're getting into our Friday afternoon, this cold air to start to spill into the middle of the country is eventually the jet lags here, and basically that pattern breaks, and the cold front finally unlatches itself from the main stream up here in the northern U.S., and then you get a cold front that shoots through the middle of the country. Therefore, you start to get those colder late spring temperatures again across the middle of the country as we get into the latter part of this weekend. But there's a chance for once we can get some warm weather across the southern U.S. on the weekend, this coming weekend, instead just all throughout the week, because it does seem like we cool down on the weekend and we warm up during the weeks. So maybe the first spring-like weekend in a while. You know, yesterday was really nice around here in South Carolina. It only got to the 60s, but had a lot of sunshine before the clouds moved in. But it definitely wasn't as warm up into the 70s and 80s or anything like it was this past week. But as far as temperatures compared to average, these are temperature anomalies. You see the idea when it starts to warm across the this area of the country right here. That boundary sets up here. And even though the boundary sets up here, it's still not like super below average temperatures. It's just more average to winter-like temperatures. But then you see, you know, you're getting into Thursday morning, see the above average temperatures across this portion of the country, well above average in the western U.S. And then you keep going, and then you see the pattern change. You see the troughing across the western U.S., and then ridging in the east. And here it is. That's exactly what this looks like. You see the Arctic boundary shoot across well above average temperatures. That is a big-time cold front shooting across the middle part of the country. So that's what we watch. That's what we watch for our big pattern change. But I think the eastern U.S. after today, especially the mid-Atlantic to the southern states, the deep south, the southeast, heck, even into the middle of the country, we really begin to have a spring-like week this week. The pollen's going to really go crazy, especially if you're in the deep south and southeast, and it's going to be nice weather for sure. You're looking at the European, what does it look like as far as storm systems? About the same, really about the same as the GFS. Just shows pieces of energy shooting across the northern U.S. But there you go. You're getting to about 168 hours out. That's about 6 days out. And you see the pattern break. And it might break with a big old storm system that really gets this thing kick-started here across the north-central U.S. and the Midwest here. Maybe a big storm system to watch here. And then that's when the activity begins to pop off as this jet starts to sag south. And then you have storm systems to begin to erupt across that boundary. And that looks very similar to some storms we've seen over the last several weeks right here. But this is very far out. It's next Monday morning, so we'll continue to watch this, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Sorry about the low energy. I'm just still mentally and physically recuperating from everything. But God bless everybody. Y'all have a great day. Stay safe, and have a great day.